You all know what they saw. They saw what we saw. They saw the frail elderly man who needed help getting off the stage. They're just too chicken shit to tell us about it because they accurately deduced that he could still be the Democratic nominee and they don't want to ding him up. Maybe you give Barbara a pass. Who gives a damn what this singer saw or says? But you know what? Jimmy Kimmel happens to be employed by ABC, which happens to have a rather large news organization. And he has been one of President Trump's most vocal critics. Where are you, Jimmy? On vacation? Not good enough. You can still use your thumbs to send out a tweet. You could set the record straight right now, but you won't.
What happens when Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly team up for a roasting session, and Jimmy Kimmel becomes the unlucky target getting hit? It stops looking like regular late-night comedy and starts feeling like career emergency treatment with ego-crushing jokes and truth bombs packed with extra heat, turning the whole situation into a three-alarm fire where Kimmel might as well be the marshmallow getting toasted over flames. This isn't your typical celebrity fight or argument. It's a verbal destruction contest, and Jimmy clearly forgot to wear his protective helmet. What did he say to cause all this drama and chaos? Keep watching, because it's even messier than a complete Twitter meltdown that goes viral.
Yeah, all of a sudden the ideology shifts because so many people are compromised by this very thing that we were talking about before. The very thing that they use to control the media in terms of the news, they use it to control the media in terms of late night talk shows and monologues as well. It's the same influence because they're the same sponsors. The same people are spending the same money on the same networks. And it has an impact. If it affects your livelihood and affects your future and your ability to do the thing that you love doing, which is hosting a talk show, and you're doing it on a network that is paid for by that money, guess what? That affects you.
Once upon a time in the world of late-night television and carefully polished niceness, Jimmy Kimmel played the role of funny guy and boss, the person known for beer-drinking skits and silly bounce house bits that made people laugh. But now he's changed so much that he's practically Hollywood's wise spiritual leader, clutching his chest over every moral problem with the same hands that once celebrated bathroom humor and pranks. What happened to change him so drastically? Well, Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly have their own theories and explanations, and they definitely didn't whisper them quietly. They shouted them out loud and super clear for everyone to hear.
Just this past 2 weeks, they had the Kennedy Center honors the other night where Joe Biden couldn't say Dionne Warwick. He kept calling her Diane, and he didn't know who Barry Gibb was. He kept calling him Billy. You know who else was honored at the Kennedy Center? You know who else? Billy Crystal. Just FYI, do you know who once opened up the Academy Awards in full blackface?
Oh,
Billy Crystal. Billy Crystal. And do you know who's going to be hosting the Academy Awards this year? Jimmy Kimmel. Do you know who's worn blackface repeatedly and spoken inner city sort of urban accents saying she needs to darn those socks? Jimmy Kimmel as Oprah, as a fat-suited, black-faced, darning socks Oprah. Now, if you are of the left, that's fine. If you are of the right and happen to just say, hey, people used to wear blackface and nobody freaked out about it, you get fired.
First up comes Joe Rogan, the MMA fighting commentator who turned into a podcast superstar and full-time wrecking ball for anything fake or sugar-coated in media. And he doesn't carefully tiptoe into his criticism of people. He charges forward like a caffeine-powered rhino on a serious mission to crush anything that isn't real or authentic. For Joe, Kimmel isn't just another ordinary late-night host doing his job. He's a leftover piece from a time when comedy actually meant something real beyond just flashing cards filled with moral virtue and fake goodness to impress people online.
That sort of self-censorship and the idea of being a more empathetic person is a good thing, right? But as long as it's reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, the problem with that kind of stuff is it continues to go in the same direction where more and more things become forbidden and toxic.
Rogan's opinion isn't really about personal drama or hurt feelings, but more about a deeper kind of letdown and disappointment. Because when someone builds their entire career on being the everyday truth teller who keeps it real, watching Kimmel transform into Hollywood's moral doorman feels like discovering your favorite casual restaurant now only serves organic kale smoothies with motivational quotes stuck to the drinking glasses. It feels like betrayal wrapped up in a fake laugh track playing in the background. And Kimmel's evolution, or breakdown depending on which side you're sitting on, plays out like a complete satire comedy sketch that basically writes itself without any help needed.
You know, the Elon Musk joking around about my pronouns are prosecute Fauci. Jimmy Kimmel made a tweet back to him. He said, your pronouns are ass and hole. Funny. But then,
Really?
Yes. So then I read that, and there was people saying, please don't joke about pronouns. It's transphobic to joke about pronouns. So they were chiding him for participating in a joke about pronouns.
So Jimmy Kimmel was doing, he was doing it too.
Yeah, he was doing it too.
The man who once pushed the boundaries of comedy like a wild rodeo cowboy now holds tight to a shiny moral compass that somehow always spins straight toward the loudest cheering and applause from crowds. And Rogan, always searching and hunting for real authenticity, spots the complete rebrand from miles and miles away. It's not just a small shift or change. It's a full-on career makeover like plastic surgery for his image. Nothing says I'm still brave and bold quite like repeating the exact same predictable political message squeezed tightly between jokes that got approved by the Human Resources Department. While Rogan's world and podcast stays messy, chaotic, sometimes wild and crazy, but always completely real and honest. A place where people can strongly disagree without exploding into moral flames and outrage. Yet Kimmel seems wrapped up comfortably in Hollywood's blanket of safe opinions that everyone already agrees with.
Got the Sunday morning show with Stephanopoulos into the evening Academy Awards broadcast with Kimmel, and ABC elevating, the blackface loving Kimmel. They at the same time fired Chris Harrison, host of The Bachelor, for trying to defend one contestant on The Bachelorette for saying, gee, I know I went to this antebellum party, a couple years ago. I guess I didn't see anything wrong with it. And all he said was, are we judging her by today's standards or are we judging her by, old standards, whatever. He was basically trying to say, are we being too hard on her? Got fired. Chris Harrison has to be fired by ABC. I don't know why, because he's not a committed leftist, because he's not out there more saying all the terrible things about Republicans that Jimmy Kimmel says. So this is them saying, we get it. We're an ally. Right? And I guess maybe they're trying to make up with their racist past without ever acknowledging.
And what Rogan clearly sees is someone who traded away his comedic soul and spirit for Instagram approval and social media likes. Once totally unpredictable and exciting, but now completely bland and boring like beige paint. It's like watching a rebellious punk rock musician from the 90s turn into a healthy grocery store spokesperson selling organic products. Sure, Kimmel still cracks jokes on his show, but now they come attached with warning labels and safety disclaimers. Comedy that once hit audiences like a powerful punch now feels soft like a boring corporate email memo, especially in a late-night television scene that's been scrubbed completely clean for the internet algorithm, where Rogan looks around and sees nothing but copies and clones with exact same jokes, same politics, same punchlines, zero risk-taking, and absolutely no bite or edge. Turning late-night TV into a kindergarten classroom for people reading note cards, while Kimmel plays the role of head teacher and babysitter, whether he wanted to or not.
Yes, hypocrisy is alive and well amongst these sanctimonious leftists. From Kimmel to De Niro to Stephanopoulos, they want you to believe they're better than you, more virtuous, more decent. But we all know the truth. They lie. They sin. They do the very things they accuse you of and the things they say they would never do. Evil things, like try to destroy people based on feigned outrage from which they spare their own side.
The media absolutely loves a good comeback story, as long as you're singing the approved song they want to hear. And Jimmy has practically become the main singer, leading the choir with his voice. But here's where things get really interesting and juicy. While Kelly tears apart the public relations tricks and carefully planned apologies, she also reveals the real reason and incentive behind it all happening. Because Kimmel doesn't get forgiven just for being sorry and apologizing. He gets forgiven for completely switching teams and changing sides. It's not truly about having good morals and values. It's about matching what the market wants, where having real values is optional and being loyal to the approved narrative is absolutely required. So now you got two very different types of criticism landing hard on the same man, with Rogan calling out the fake plastic shell where a real comedian used to live and breathe, and Kelly pointing directly at the empty suit hiding behind the media curtain trying to look important.
They were saying that his tweet is transphobic.
In that case, you think that's him or a writer? Can't you tell?
Jimmy Kimmel?
Yeah.
No, it's him, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
good. That's a good one.
He's a comic.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I mean, he used to host the Man Show. I mean, he's done some pretty outrageous shit back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, for he-he's and ha-has.
No, that's a good joke on top of a good joke.
Yeah, it's a good joke.
And both of their attacks hit painfully close to the truth in their own special ways. Rogan sees a once genuine and authentic voice now buried deep under studio polish and an addiction to getting approval from others, while Kelly sees a strategic lizard changing colors and adjusting just enough to survive each new outrage wave that comes along. And together, they accidentally become the most unlikely tag team partnership you could imagine. One person swinging a baseball bat, while the other one files a detailed investigative report with evidence, with the only thing missing being fresh popcorn because the comedy itself isn't even the real problem anymore. It's the sad fact that it barely even tries to be funny as Kimmel, who once loved testing boundaries and pushing limits, now just carefully guard them, turning his comedy monologues into boring homework assignments meant to prove he memorized and read the approved script correctly.
Now, I will tell you, he's not the worst. The Daily Show has the worst ratings. They only have 366,000 people watching that show. During the Jon Stewart years, it was over 2 million. Now it's down to 300,000. Seth Meyers, absolutely dreadful. He doesn't even have 1 million, 778,000. I mean, for network television, this is, you don't have to pay for it. It's there when you turn on your TV. You plug it in. That's a dreadful number. Greg Gutfeld on cable, which you do have to pay for, has more than double the numbers of Seth Meyers. Jimmy Kimmel, 1.5 million averaging, also equally horrible.
But television viewers never tuned in to get graded like students in school. They tuned in to laugh and have fun. And somewhere along the long road, the jokes slowly turned into lectures and speeches, and the funny punchlines transformed into mini educational talks with applause signs lighting up. That's exactly what Rogan and Kelly point out so sharply and clearly. The pure absurdity and craziness of seeing a guy who once stood proudly for being irreverent now representing carefully scripted fake outrage for cameras. A comedian who used to brilliantly expose hypocrisy in others, now scheduling and planning it for himself. There's no real rebellion or fighting back left anymore, only rebranding and image makeovers. And in the biggest irony of modern media today, the more Kimmel moralizes and preaches, the more hollow and empty it feels to audiences watching.
They want to shut me down on being on McAfee. They want to shut me up from... Well, that was the Kimmel thing, right? Well, no. Did you ever talk to that dude? Have you ever talked to him? I've been on the show years ago, yeah. Would you ever have a conversation with him in person? Of course. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. I mean, they wanted me to be on the show in the summertime after I got traded. Really? There had, obviously been some things that he had said about me that made me go, I don't know if I want to do that. I'd rather...
Not because having morality is bad or wrong, but because it's so obviously manufactured and fake, with every teary-eyed speech and every carefully packaged outrage moment crafted specifically for social media, like launching a new product. Sincerity becomes a team project that everyone works on together, and the impact is crystal clear and obvious. Late-night TV has turned into an echo chamber, so incredibly loud it can't even hear itself talking anymore. While Rogan sits in his chaotic podcast studio bunker wondering out loud when comedy became a boring PowerPoint business presentation, and Kelly, in her polished media war room, watches the same clown car vehicle slide off the road again and again in repeating disasters. Kimmel stays quiet and silent, but he doesn't even have to speak because his silence carries way more weight than his comedy monologues ever could at this point.
I've got serious questions about whether any of this is true. I mean, in every job I've ever worked, I've had people who would jump through brick walls for me. And I can be a tough boss. I'm not an asshole, but I'll say, that was a shitty package. We need to do better. That was not okay. And my team loves me and I love my team because we are all about putting out great work products. And I'm quick to compliment too. Like, what did he say? He basically said, "Are you okay? Seriously, do you need help? That's causing people to lose their hair?" That people need to toughen up. Your workplace is not your nana's lap.
At this stage, it's not about what he actually says anymore, but what he's completely turned into over the years. A punchline without any setup or introduction. A moral compass with a corporate brand deal attached. A performer acting in a show that nobody finds funny or entertaining anymore. They didn't even invite him to join the roasting session. They just took one good look at his whole act and called it exactly what it truly is. A sitcom without any script or direction. A sermon with a laugh track playing in the background. An empire built on irony and sarcasm, now desperately selling sincerity at half-price discount rates. And this is where things start feeling like a streaming documentary called The Day the Clown Cried for TV Ratings. Because when Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly both end up dragging Jimmy Kimmel through the same muddy puddle of criticism.
Don't think that conversation is a conversation that should be held in front of an audience in 5-minute chunks like they do on television. Yeah, that's a conversation that you have to let air out. I want to know why you think the way you think. Him, sit down with Jimmy. Why do you think the way you think? Why would you think that it's okay to say that it's a real simple thing? The people that have been vaccinated, you treat them. And the people that took horse goo, rest in peace, Wheezy. Really? Is that really how?
One swinging wildly like a blunt force caveman philosopher, and the other dissecting him carefully like she's preparing for a major courtroom legal battle. Something much deeper is bubbling under the fake laugh track. It all comes down to the sharp contrast of authenticity versus performance and acting. Since Rogan's whole style is being raw, unfiltered, and bold enough to absolutely terrify public relations teams, never even trying to be lovable, which is exactly his main appeal to millions. While Kimmel has transformed himself into something closer to a walking human press release, his once edgy comedic spirit completely replaced with polished corporate messaging, a nicer expensive hairpiece, and a moral high ground with a scenic view that looks pretty but means nothing.
Back in the day when I was on the prime time of Fox and you were on the prime time of CNN, a couple of hours after our shows ended, late night comics would come on, and they occasionally would make us laugh, Pierce. As you know, they've abandoned that game now, and they're just political operatives out there. Look at this.
Hey there. How are you doing? If you watch the show regularly, I'm guessing you're not doing great.
It was a terrible night for women, for children, for the hundreds of thousands of hardworking immigrants who make this country go, for healthcare, for our...
It all comes down to fake growth, false courage, and echo chambers that only reward comedy when it flatters the right people. Rogan and Kelly didn't just call out Jimmy Kimmel. They exposed the scaffolding holding up his entire stage. They didn't do it with anger, but with disappointment, sarcasm, and a perfectly timed side eye. The kind of mockery that doesn't shout, but smirks, leaving a silence that hits even harder than dropping the microphone. So the next time Kimmel climbs onto his moral high chair to warn America about mean tweets, maybe pause and ask if you're watching a comedian or a commercial for flavored drinks. Because the jokes used to matter, and now they're just the delivery system for the lecture. And if anyone is still laughing, Rogan and Kelly have one question. At what? Welcome to the roast that didn't even need a stage. Just two critics, a hollow brand, and a punchline that practically wrote itself.